Still to come, a court battle over fair representation in schools. We're going to discuss live with Nicole Neily, the president of the group Parents Defending Education.
Plus,
a major investigation and lawsuit into the Biden administration's newly formed Parents Council. Several parental rights groups sued, arguing that the U.S. Education Department and Education Secretary Miguel Cardona formed this group with heavy Democratic donors in violation of federal law. The Federal Advisory Committee Act, which requires panels to be fairly balanced, is what they're basing this off of right now. And Nicole Neily, founder and president of Parents Defending Education, is joining us now to discuss. Welcome back to the National Desk. Good morning.
Good morning.
So on Wednesday, Parents Defending Education, your group, America First Legal and Fight for Schools and Families, filed this lawsuit in U.S. District Court in D.C. against Department of Education and Secretary Miguel Cardona for what they say is their unlawful creation of the National Parents and Families Engagement Council. That's what this group is called. Can you tell us about this newly formed council, and what do you think the goal of the council is?
Sure. So we learned about the council through a press release. In mid-June, the Department of Education announced its creation, and we started joking immediately that we thought, oh, I guess our invitation was lost to the mail. But as we dug into it, we realized, well, this is just a really heavily stacked group of people who agree with the administration. It was ostensibly created to enable the government to hear voices from parents, but unfortunately, they're not hearing voices from all parents, just from people who they agree with. And the Federal Advisory Committee Act has a number of criteria that federal advisory commissions have to meet. And unfortunately, this group meets none of them, which is why we decided to sue them in court.
So what's your lawsuit asking the court to do?
Sure, we're asking the court to actually tell the government that this must meet all the criteria so that it is a legally established group. Those criteria are: it has to be ideologically balanced, which it is not. It must have oversight. They have to notify both House and Senate committees that have jurisdiction over this issue, which they did not. Proper notice has to be given. They didn't notify anything in the Federal Register. The president did announce its creation. And then also it has to be transparent and open to the public. We just recently filed a public information request to figure out who was involved in the creation of the group, what was the thought process that went into it, because we engage in oversight, and it's really, really difficult for us to do so if they're not opening their records to the public and if people aren't able to go and appear before the committee.
So right now you're in this investigative state. And who are these council members, and what is their connection to the Biden administration?
Sure. There are 14 organizations from across the country, groups like the National Action Network, which was founded by Al Sharpton. The president spoke at that, their national conference. Unidos, which the First Lady spoke at actually yesterday. The National Parent-Teacher Association, the National Parent Council, which actually supported and backed up what the Department of Justice did in the wake of the National School Board's letter. And so of the 14 groups, 11 of their chief executives or top leadership actually donated to Democrats. 0 of them have donated to Republicans. And so again, this is not ideologically balanced. This is just one side of the political spectrum weighing in on these issues.
And your group says that the Department of Education created this, quote, fake Parents Council to essentially try and rubber stamp indoctrination efforts. So let's talk about some of the efforts you believe the administration is trying to push and how this would help their efforts.
Sure. Of the 14 groups, at least 7 of them have come down strongly supporting the president's LGBT transgender agenda, which we're very concerned with because today is the day that the Department of Education released their proposed Title IX rule revamp. And so, again, they're only hearing from one side of this. They're not hearing from parents who are deeply concerned about gender ideology, who believe that such a change in Title IX law should actually go through proper statutory channels and be authorized by Congress and not just by a pen and a phone, as the White House seems to want to do. Again, on things like the National Parents Council backing up the NSBA's action. We didn't really like being called domestic terrorists, and I suspect that most American parents didn't. So again, those kinds of voices, that kind of perspective is something that this council sorely needs and is lacking at the moment.
All right, Nicole Neily, we appreciate you joining us this morning and bringing this to our attention. Nicole Neily with Parents Defending Education. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.
Thank you.